Hi everyone, I'm Natalie Tukalsovic, and before I begin, I would first just like to thank all of those who helped put together such an incredible event here on campus, and for inviting me here to speak with you guys this evening. I'm very honored to be standing here in front of all of you, as I don't talk much about my battle with cancer so publicly. I'm so grateful that I am able to share my story, as I have been affected by the evils of cancer throughout my lifetime. I was born to my parents as the little baby girl they worked so hard to have. So when their only child was diagnosed with a very rare form of childhood cancer called neuroblastoma at the age of 2.5, my whole family was devastated. But the worst had yet to come. By the time they had discovered the cancer, there was disease in every bone of my body and had impacted 90% of my body's bone marrow, leaving some skeptical doctors pessimistic enough to say there was nothing they could do, and leaving it up to my immediate family as well as my extended family and friends to prepare to help me fight. I am so grateful for the support and encouragement I received while I was in the hospital. Although I was little, I still remember spending my free time when I was not getting radiation, chemotherapy, or a bone marrow transplant by coloring, watching Alice in Wonderland numerous times a day, and having quite the appetite for the cucumbers and sausage my Croatian daddy would bring me. I am told that despite the constant needles being poked into my body, the nausea, and the terrifying treatment I had to go through, I always pushed through, seeing the glass half full when everything else in the hospital seemed completely empty. My illness was enough of a traumatic experience for all of my family that no one believed it could get any worse. As I started to get better and the cancer started disappearing, there seemed to finally be a light at the end of the tunnel. Little did we know that the tunnel was about to be plunged into darkness again. Just as I became healthy and there was no sign of cancer, my dad was diagnosed with a different type of cancer called multiple myeloma. After such a short celebration of my body being clean, it was time again to dust off our feet and start fighting. What no one could understand is why my dad. He took care of himself, loved to laugh, and had the same ridiculous sense of humor that I was fortunate enough to get as well. But unfortunately, his care for himself did not stop the big C from poisoning his body, and we were thrown back into the chaos of doctor's appointments, hospital stays, and the dreadful time spent waiting. My dad actually seemed to be cooperating well with the treatments being given to him. Unfortunately, with such a weak immune system, he developed pneumonia, and a year after he had been diagnosed, my 6-year-old self had to say goodbye to my dad for the last time. Even though this was a huge devastation in my life, the thing that pains me the most to think about now is how much my mom had already gone through with me just to end up losing the love of her life. Her strength was the main thing that got everyone through both my illness and my dad's death, and to this day she is my constant supporter and cheerleader, always encouraging me to follow my biggest dreams. Without my mom, I have no idea what I would do, as she has always been there for me through my best and my roughest times. As time has passed since my dad died, she has only grown stronger to help me through life's roller coaster as well as for herself. Her constant encouragement has never faded, even in the years following my dad's passing, when I was still a little girl and couldn't completely understand what was going on. Losing my dad so young, my mom always had photos, stories, and videos to keep his spirit alive, so as a little girl I never really had the chance to miss him. But as I got older, I started to understand more that my dad was never coming back. I would never get to sit behind the wheel and have him teach me how to drive, or have my first boyfriend have the first scary meeting with him. I wouldn't get to go to my daddy-daughter dances, and I would never have him walk me down the aisle at my wedding, something that I always dreamed of as the hopeless romantic I am. I finally started to heal when I made my first trip to a cancer camp in Northern California called Camp Okaizu. One of my best friends, Emily, who I shared a room with in the hospital, always raved about this camp full of fun activities and nice people, where for once in our lives as cancer survivors, you could feel completely normal. As a 16-year-old camper, I was still afraid to say goodbye to my mom the day the bus picked me up. I always had separation anxiety with my mom, since she was the anchor in my life and the only parent I had left. But I think saying goodbye to her was the beginning of my true mourning of my dad's death. as I left to go to a camp where everyone had or did have cancer, and would understand what I went through with myself and with my daddy. As I sat at my first meal in the Okaizu dining hall, I looked around the room watching the other campers. To my right was a little boy named Josh, who looked just like a typical 7-year-old boy. To my left, there was an 11-year-old girl named Elaine, who was completely bald and pale from all the chemotherapy she was still being given. Looking at her bald head, I realized I was once a 3-year-old exactly where she was. And as she and Josh smiled at me, I smiled back. And I finally realized that if I could confront my past anywhere, it would be at Camp Okaizu, where everyone was just like me. I returned to Okaizu this past summer as a counselor, expecting to meet some new faces, and instead of being a camper and a friend, I would be a leader and an inspiration to those still fighting. Little did I know that my campers would be my inspiration, and one camper in particular. I was beyond excited to meet my campers. I have always loved working with kids, and as an aspiring teacher, what better way to learn how to work with children than at the best camp in the world? I had my list of the 6 11-year-old girls I would be in charge of for the next week. One of the first to arrive was Mariah Morris, a girl who had been fighting a brain tumor since she was 4 years old. From the number of surgeries and damage caused to her brain, her entire left side of her body was atrophied from the waist up. But her kind smile, her contagious laugh, and her determination to lug her gigantic backpack on her back with only one arm supporting it showed how much of a light she was to all who knew her. Mariah showed me that no matter how much has happened to one person, there is always a reason to smile and to help brighten this world. On the first day of camp, she gave me a deck of cards, where each of the 52 had a different way to make a difference, ranging from telling a joke to make someone smile, to building a garden to help the earth breathe. Despite all of the pain she had been through, she never once put herself first. She was always trying to help cheer someone up, or explain to me why it wasn't worth being sad or fearful about her life, because she was just so happy to be at camp and to have a family waiting at home who loved her. Mariah encompassed everything a person should be: optimistic, grateful, carefree, enthusiastic, understanding, and most of all, full of love. Just a month ago, I got the news that after battling cancer for 8 years, my sweet Mariah passed away in February. I was absolutely devastated to know that I will be going back to camp this summer, unable to see the smile that could light up my entire day. But I knew that Mariah would not want me to be sad. Her positive outlook on life taught me to celebrate her life instead of mourn her death, and more importantly, keep living a happy life in honor of her. After such a recent death of a little girl that I kept very close to my heart, I have been even more motivated than ever to stop worrying about the smaller things in life, and instead focus on the happiness that is surrounding me. First with my battle with cancer, then the loss of my daddy, and now the loss of my camper, I have realized that I could never say that I only survived cancer. My experiences with cancer are much more than events in my lifetime, but they make up a lifestyle within themselves. I have learned to live my life to the fullest by being determined, enthusiastic, and ambitious. Because if people like my dad and Mariah can shed their worlds with sunlight, even at their darkest times, we, the lucky ones who are still alive, should be able to never let our sunshine leave. Life is too short, and it's better to live it in happiness and with a purpose. No matter if your purpose is to teach children like mine is, or to go to the moon, our opportunities as human beings are endless. And my story of survival, as well as my dad's and Mariah's stories of loss, should be an inspiration to all of you to never let sadness or fear get in the way of living your life. As Albert Einstein once said, "Learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow." As I live for today, I hope that from here on out, you live with the same optimism and smile that my father, Mariah, and I share, whether you have battled cancer or not. I hope all of you will be able to live life to the fullest and spread your happiness to others. As long as you have hope and faith, you can achieve your biggest hopes and dreams. Thank you.